Discover the incredible wedding gift that transformed a 19-year-old bride's life in one shocking revelation. Emma stood in the modest living room of her childhood home, anticipation swirling like a summer storm. Friends flitted about, laughter and vibrant chatter weaving through the air, filling the gaps of her restless thoughts. Today was supposed to be a celebration, the final preparations before her wedding to Jake, the love of her life. Yet she felt the weight of her decisions pressing down on her like an anchor. Dreams of a cozy life, of shared aspirations and youthful love, crowded her mind, battling with a sudden gnawing uncertainty. As she fiddled with the decorative lace on her bridal shower gown, the doorbell rang, cutting through the festive ambiance. A delivery man stood on the porch, a simple brown package in hand. Curiosity glimmered in her bright eyes. What could it be? Her heart quickened when she recognized her grandmother's handwriting on the label, and a strange woman she barely remembered. With trembling fingers, Emma opened the box, revealing a stunning silver locket nestled in soft tissue paper. The delicate design sparked a dim memory, but her focus quickly shifted to a letter tucked inside. Unfolding the paper, Emma's breath caught as she read her grandfather's words. He spoke of a sprawling ranch teetering on the brink of foreclosure, a piece of land drenched in stories from generations past. The burden of her family's struggles wrapped itself tightly around her heart. This was not just property, it was her legacy. Could she abandon her dreams of veterinary medicine, the future she had long envisioned, to save the remnants of her family's heritage? Doubt clawed at Emma. The moment Jake had proposed, it felt as if a new chapter had begun, yet now the pages felt tethered to the past. Her shoulders bore the weight of choices that should not rest on her alone. An exciting wedding day loomed ahead, but a storm brewed in her mind. She had always envisioned a life with Jake, launching into their future together, not sinking into familial responsibility. Facing her scared her. What if he didn't understand? Her thoughts spiraled as she imagined the harsh reality. Even worse looms on the horizon, an ambitious developer with promises of shining new buildings aimed at dismantling everything Emma held dear. The ranch was a sanctuary that called to her. She could hear the whispers of her ancestors urging her to act, to fight. But what about the life she planned with Jake? Before diving deeper into her turmoil, Emma focused intently. Time slipped away, leaving her heart racing with more questions than answers. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos.
And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The room swirled around her as she locked eyes with the locket, a cold, hard reminder of the heavy stakes ahead. Emma's mind raced, filled with tormenting thoughts of her unfulfilled dreams and the shadow of heritage. Betrayal from a close family member echoed in her ears, pushing her towards inaction, even as fury ignited within. Would standing up for her roots mean sacrificing everything she longed for? As the weight of indecision crushed down upon her, Emma's heart thudded painfully in her chest. Her wedding day approached like a freight train, yet it carried with it the burdens of uncertainty and conflict. The locket grew heavy in her palm, a potent symbol of what she could lose. Gripping it tighter, she felt the pulse of her family's passion, yearning for survival. Time was slipping. Would she have the heart to confront the chaos, even as her mind whispered to just let go? Doubts swirled. Shadows deepened, and Emma stood on the very brink of two divergent paths, her future hanging in the balance. Emma's breath hitched in her throat as she contemplated the weight of the locket. Clenching it tightly, the cool metal felt both foreign and familiar in her palm. Her thoughts spiraled. What if she chose to pursue her dreams of becoming a veterinarian, leaving her family's legacy in jeopardy? Would she ever forgive herself for not fighting for something that had been part of her lineage for generations? Feeling the anxiety surge within her, Emma made her way to the kitchen, where the smell of cookies wafted through the air. The lively chatter of her friends created a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside her. She forced a smile as a couple of her closest friends approached, their faces glowing with excitement. "Em, we're just so happy for you. It's your day, and it's all going to be perfect." "Yeah, thanks," she replied, her voice lacking enthusiasm. Inside, she felt like a dam ready to break, thoughts crashing against her resolve. Why was she struggling to embrace this joyful occasion? The wedding loomed ahead, yet her heart was not fully present. "Is everything all right?" one friend asked, concern flickering in her eyes. Emma hesitated, torn between confiding in her friends or keeping her family burden to herself. Solitude wrapped around her like a blanket, the kind that suffocated rather than comforted. "I guess I'm just a bit overwhelmed," she admitted, swallowing hard. The honesty startled her, revealing a vulnerability she'd been trying to suppress. "Well, if that's the case, you should take a moment, breathe, and think about what you truly want," her friend suggested, placing a reassuring hand on Emma's shoulder. What did she want? The question echoed within her, reverberating against her heart's walls.
The ranch was more than land. It possessed the stories, hopes, and dreams of her ancestors. Could saving it align with her ambition to care for animals? A new, bold idea began to take shape in her mind. Perhaps she could integrate her aspirations with her family's legacy, build upon it rather than forsake it. With resolve shifting through her, Emma excused herself from the group, stepping into the quiet solitude of her childhood room. The walls, once hung with bright posters of her favorite animals, now felt like relics of a past she might have to relinquish. Yet they also whispered tales of resilience. The burgeoning idea transformed anxiety into determination. The thought of fighting for both her dreams and her heritage ignited a spark. She spent a few moments considering her next steps, envisioning herself balancing the demands of veterinary medicine while working to save the ranch. Could she dedicate weekends to caring for the animals at the ranch, developing it into an animal sanctuary? The prospect of blending the two passions sent courage coursing through her veins. After collecting herself, Emma returned to the party, her demeanor slightly altered. She took a deep breath, and when she caught Jake's eye, he could see it in her, the spark of conviction beginning to replace uncertainty. What if she brought him into her plans? Would he support her? Emma felt a surge of hope. There was more than just her life with Jake at stake. There was a legacy to preserve, animals to save, and a passion to ignite. She was already trembling on the edge of her decision, but now she could see an avenue to reconcile her dreams with her roots. As she grabbed Jake's hand, pulling him in close, she prepared to voice the swirling thoughts racing through her mind. But as she opened her mouth, a sudden loud knock echoed through the house, silencing the laughter and drawing every eye to the door. Emma's heart stuttered. Who was it? The answer could change everything. Emma froze as the murmurs of the party turned into palpable tension at the door. The knock reverberated through her, igniting her internal turmoil anew. She glanced at Jake, whose brow furrowed with concern, and she felt the weight of expectation settle on her shoulders. This moment, unexpected and unscripted, seemed imbued with a significance she couldn't yet comprehend. The door swung open, revealing a tall figure cloaked in a worn denim jacket, his weathered face shadowed beneath a baseball cap. Emma's heart raced, recognizing the cautious eyes, her estranged uncle, Graham. He bore the unmistakable air of someone who had come bearing consequences. "Emma," he greeted, the tension in his voice matching the intensity crackling in the room. He stepped in, a storm cloud of raw emotion trailing him. The chatter died once more, eyes darting between the two. "What are you doing here?" Emma's voice was steadier than she felt. A part of her yearned for this connection. Yet another part flinched at the memories of unresolved family disputes that had kept them at arm's length for years. "I need to talk, just for a minute." Graham's tone was earnest, laced with worry. "It's about the ranch." The word hung in the air, a dangerous whisper, stirring a tempest inside her. Emma tightened her grip around the locket, grounding herself. She had been contemplating ways to save the ranch, but this felt different, felt like a challenge thrown down before her. "Now," she replied, glancing at the gathering, most of whom she had hardly acknowledged since Graham's arrival. She could feel their eyes on her, curiously assessing the unexpected scene unfolding. "Yes, now," he pressed, his eyes dark with urgency. "There's something you need to know, something that could change everything." Emma hesitated, the amalgamation of emotions roiling within her. On one hand, she craved connection, with her past, with her family, with the legacy she felt trapped beneath. On the other, she was terrified of the implications. Taking a deep breath, she realized she had to confront this moment directly, even if it rattled the fragile plans she had begun to weave. "Let's go to the back then," she decided, motioning toward the sliding door that led to the porch. The audience began to dissipate, her friends resuming their conversations with whispers of confusion. Once outside, the cool evening air brushed against her skin,
calming her flames of anxiety just slightly. The ranch loomed behind her, its shadows stretching longer as the sun dipped lower. "What is it?" Emma prodded, hope mingling with dread. "I've been looking into the history of the land," Graham began, his voice steadying as he focused on her. "And there's something in the deed, something about a secret clause that might threaten our claim." The ground felt unsteady beneath her, dreams of a sanctuary spinning out of control. Questions clawed at her. Was this a dark omen of failure or an unexpected opportunity? Could this news alter her course toward both the ranch and her aspirations? "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" Emma questioned, her voice rising despite her effort to remain calm. "I've been struggling with everything, and if there's a problem with the ranch, I wasn't sure you'd want to hear it." Graham's resolve flickered as shadows mixed with dusk. "But it's not just about the threat. It's a chance for you to take the reins, maybe even save it." Emma's heart pounded with an insistent rhythm. This wasn't merely about saving the ranch. It had the potential to redefine her entire identity. Was the ranch a burden or a cornerstone of her future? "What do I need to do?" she asked, the determination hardening in her voice. "There's an upcoming meeting with the owners next week. You need to be prepared to stand up for the ranch and what it represents. Your legacy." The urgency of his message set her heart racing anew.
A decision loomed ahead, one that could entrench her either as a partner to her family's legacy or as its savior. Emma squared her shoulders, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Suddenly, a thought, bold and liberating, pierced through her fear. If she was to protect her family's legacy, this fight would require more than just passion. It would take strategy, keen insight, and above all, courage. As they began to discuss the specifics, Emma realized she was standing at a crucial juncture. The impending challenge before her was more than a test. It was an invitation to reclaim her narrative. In that moment, Emma decided she would not only fight for her dreams, but would also challenge the obstacles trapping her in uncertainty. But as she felt the adrenaline start to mix with resolve, another knock echoed in her mind. This time, however, it wasn't at the door. It was an internal call, a reminder that she needed to confront her darkest fears if she truly wanted to emerge victorious. Would she be able to reconcile her aspirations with the demands of a legacy steeped in tradition? That question lingered, heavy with promise and peril, as Emma's journey ignited with possibilities. Emma stood on the porch, the evening air thick with tension and unspoken words. Graham's revelations were heavy, but also electrifying, igniting something deep within her. She had spent years feeling the weight of the ranch, a place she longed to protect and a legacy overshadowed by family conflicts. Now, faced with the flicker of opportunity, she felt a resolve stirring inside her. "Okay," she said finally, determination weaving its way into her voice. "What do I need to know?" Graham laid out the details before her. "The meeting with the owners is crucial. I've managed to gather some information about the original deed that has not been revealed to anyone else. If we can leverage that—" "Leverage it how?" Emma interrupted, her mind racing with possibilities. She had a vague notion of how properties worked, but the intricate details were still daunting. "First, we have to understand what it says regarding rights and any limitations that were placed on our family. If we can find a loophole or something that has been overlooked." "Then we can claim the ranch fully?" she asked, her heart racing. "Not just claim it. We can expand it, challenge the owner's authority, and potentially get the backing of the community." His eyes locked onto hers, igniting a fire in her spirit. "But you have to be the one to lead this. They need to see you, not just me." Emma felt vulnerable, but empowered at the same time. This was her moment, a chance to blossom from the shadows of her family's legacy and step into her own light. A knot of fear remained, seated in the midst of excitement. What if I fail? Graham's expression softened. Failure is part of the process. You won't always win every battle, but that doesn't mean you're not meant to fight. You have a unique opportunity right in front of you, Emma. Don't let fear dictate your actions. Instead, let it fuel your preparation. As she absorbed his words, Emma began to outline a plan in her mind, filling in the gaps of knowledge she needed. She would research the ranch's history, delve into local regulations, and identify allies, key people who could support her cause. She needed to arm herself with knowledge and strategy, using every tool at her disposal. Days passed in a blur. Emma buried herself in documents and spent evenings reading up on land rights, engaging in discussions with local historians, and seeking counsel from those who had successfully navigated similar challenges. The more she learned, the more empowered she felt.
but the balance between confidence and intimidation was fragile, often tipping at the slightest hurdle. Conversations with Graham broadened her perspective. Each session with him echoed with the lessons of resilience, fortifying her once hesitant spirit. Yet just as the fog of ignorance began to lift, doubt slinked back in, accentuated by a critical voice in her mind that whispered she wasn't enough. Would they take her seriously? Did she have the charisma to rally people behind her? The night before the meeting, Emma stood beside the ranch, the familiar scent of earth and hay enveloping her. An inner resolve surged as she breathed in the stillness. Tomorrow this changes, she whispered to herself, her voice strong and unwavering. The moon cast a gentle glow, illuminating the path she would take. When the day of reckoning finally arrived, Emma donned not just her best outfit, but also armor made of will and purpose. She could feel the heaviness of the moment, the looming confrontation ahead promising to be the greatest test yet. But just as she stepped out of her car, ready to face the gathering clouds of uncertainty, a familiar face emerged from the shadows. It was a figure she hadn't expected to see, Jake, his face a mask of concern. "Emma, we need to talk before you go in." Her stomach lurched. This pivotal moment was not just her battle, but now intertwined with another's presence. She was on the edge of something big. Would Jake's intervention guide her, or would it only serve to distract her from her goal? With determination coiling in her chest, Emma turned to him, bracing herself for whatever he had to say, knowing that this unexpected conversation could shift the very course of her plans. Emma's heart thudded in her chest as she faced Jake, the weight of the upcoming meeting pressing down on her. She couldn't afford to waver now, not after all the preparation and self-discovery. Still, Jake's presence evoked a whirlwind of emotion. A swirling blend of nostalgia and anxiety coursed through her veins. "Emma, I know today is important," Jake began, his voice steady yet filled with urgency. "But you need to understand something before you walk into that room."
"Just tell me," she said, trying to cloak her rising frustration with composure. His concern felt intrusive, almost like a straitjacket on the resolve she'd painstakingly crafted. "I want to support you," he said, eyes searching hers for insight. "But are you sure you're ready? I've seen you struggle before." Struggle. The word hung between them like a weight made of stone. For years, Emma had battled the expectations of others, the tug-of-war within herself about the legacy of the ranch, caught between duty and desire. It was a past she was determined to break free from. "Yes, I am ready," she answered, a trace of defensiveness creeping into her voice. "I've prepared for this moment more than I've ever prepared for anything." Jake sighed, his expression shifting to one of understanding laced with concern. "I just don't want you to get hurt. The owners are ruthless, Emma. You'll be facing seasoned negotiators who won't hesitate to take advantage of your inexperience." His words ricocheted in her mind, igniting a renewed sense of urgency. Reflecting on her inadequacies, she felt the remnants of doubt rise. What if he was right? What if the knowledge she had amassed wasn't enough? But amid that uncertainty, a solid core of self-confidence emerged, reminding her of Grand's steadfast belief in her capabilities. "Jake, I appreciate your concern, but the only way I'll ever find out if I can handle this is by actually doing it," she said, her voice firmer now, fueled by the ticking clock. "I can't let fear hold me back." She could see the struggle on Jake's face, as if he were wrestling with her determination. Perhaps he saw the weak spots she had yet to identify within herself. Yet where he saw vulnerability, Emma infused strength. She had done the research, built the alliances, and no matter the outcome, this was her fight. In that moment of clarity, she took a breath and steeled herself, using the rising tension around her as a catalyst for growth. "I'm going in," she declared, her voice resolute. "I need to do this alone. I value your support, but this has to be my decision." The silence that followed echoed with the weight of unspoken words. Emma sensed Jake wrestling with a tumult of emotions. A final pang of hesitation flickered in her chest, but it was rapidly replaced by purpose. "Okay, I respect that," he finally said, stepping back slightly, a mixture of admiration and concern coloring his expression. "Just remember, I'm here for you if you need anything." With a nod, Emma turned and walked toward the imposing building that housed the meeting. Each step felt monumental, a testament to her growth. The reality of her leadership would be determined by her actions today, and she had resolved to leave no stone unturned. As she entered the meeting room, Emma was greeted by the skeptical glances of the owners, their expressions a clear challenge.
Her stomach fluttered, but she wielded the knowledge she had gathered like armor, bolstered by the understanding that each debate would sharpen her resolve. Realization hit her. This was not just about claiming rights. It was about proving to herself that she could command respect in her own right.
This meeting marked a pivotal moment in embracing her identity as a leader. "Let's see how they respond when I show them just how prepared I am," she thought, as tensions enveloped the air, the anticipation simmering just beneath the surface. Just as Emma opened her mouth to speak, a loud bang erupted in the corridor, setting everyone on edge. Time seemed to freeze, and her heart raced. What had just happened? Uncertainty flickered back in, intertwining with the determination she had nurtured. The unfolding mystery could shift the dynamics of the meeting entirely. Would it throw her off course, or provide an unforeseen opportunity? A sudden edge of excitement mingled with unease, sending her anticipation spiraling upward. The moment of truth was upon her once again. Emma's confidence faltered momentarily as the sound reverberated through the room, sending shockwaves of uncertainty into her carefully curated realm of preparation. The owners exchanged wary glances, their skepticism now mixed with genuine concern. Every instinct screamed for her to retreat, to hide behind the knowledge and plans she had constructed. But instead she felt a flicker of defiance ignite within her. The silence following the bang felt thick, as if it were a living thing, suspended in the air along with her rising heartbeat. The tension in the room shifted like a tide, and she could sense the owners weighing their next actions. This abrupt chaos was an unexpected complication, but perhaps it was the very disruption that could shift the balance in her favor. She had come too far. She refused to allow doubt to creep in again. Taking a deep breath, Emma steadied herself, drawing strength from the urgency of the moment. She could feel her resolve solidifying into something more tangible. Each sketch of her plan whirred through her mind again, every statistic and argument crystallizing into a solid foundation beneath her. If she were to step forth as a leader, she needed to embody that identity immediately. "Excuse me," she spoke, her voice ringing clear despite the chaos, and all eyes turned toward her, some incredulous, others challenging. "I think we should address this situation first. It might have a bearing on our negotiations." She watched as their expressions shifted, surprise, then grudging respect. It was a small but pivotal moment. Uncertainty could either be a debilitating force or her ally. Emma chose to command it. "While we wait for whoever is responsible for that sound to re-enter, let's use this opportunity to discuss the points I've prepared," she continued.
"I've laid out reasons why it is vital for this ranch to remain in our hands, ensuring not just its legacy, but also its future prosperity." To her astonishment, she felt a wave of adrenaline propel her words. The mere act of asserting herself had created a shift in her own mindset. As she spoke, detailing potential growth strategies, market expansions, and community engagement efforts, she saw the owners reacting. Some nodded, others furrowed their brows, but all eyes remained glued to her. This moment was charged with something she had never fully embraced, her authentic voice. As she elaborated, she felt a new facet of herself emerge, one that didn't just echo back the opinions of others, but stood firm in her convictions and knowledge. However, as the initial thrill surged through her, another realization settled alongside it. What was this newfound confidence built upon? What lay beneath her vocal bravado? Anxiety stirred within, compelling her to question the motives driving her arguments. It became imperative to acknowledge that her desire to prove herself was fueled partly by the lingering echoes of her past failures. This was a revelation she hadn't fully confronted before. The sound of footsteps broke her train of thought, and the meeting door swung open to reveal a harried assistant. "Sorry for the delay, there was a situation in the hall. Everything is under control now." His tone was rushed, but the air shifted again, the opportunity flickering with uncertainty. Emma felt a choice looming. Should she seize control and redirect their attention back to her arguments, or allow this interruption to derail her moment? In that instant, she acknowledged the roots of her fear, that deep-seated belief that she might not belong here, and it crystallized into a resolve. She would face this challenge head-on. "The unexpected can create new pathways," she articulated, stealing a glance at each owner, gauging their reactions. "What I'm suggesting today is more than just negotiations. It's a vision for a resilient future. Let's not get sidetracked." The owners exchanged glances, weighing the dynamics at play. Could she truly influence this group and secure her vision? Would her voice resonate beyond their skepticism?
Just as Emma prepared for another strategic point, one owner leaned back and smirked, a challenge brimming in his eyes. "What makes you think you have what it takes to lead this endeavor, Emma?" The air thickened with tension, and all eyes turned to her once again. This was the moment she had anticipated, but did her answer hold the weight needed to shift the tide? As Emma felt the stakes rise, she locked eyes with the owner and took a deep breath, ready to confront the very doubts that threatened to undermine her. The culmination of her journey teetered on what she would reveal now. Would she embrace vulnerability, or would she cement her authority? Her response was about to unfold, but the weight of expectation loomed larger than ever.
She had to decide whether to showcase her growth or succumb to the fear still lurking beneath her surface. "Because I've watched others fail where they could have thrived," Emma began, her voice steady but imbued with deep-seated emotion. The room held its breath. This was more than just a response. It was a reckoning. She felt the weight of every word permeating the tension surrounding her. "Every decision I make springs from the lessons learned through loss," she continued, deliberately meeting the owner's challenging gaze. "I have spent months gathering data, understanding the market dynamics, and most importantly, connecting with our community. I know the ranch's spirit, and I refuse to let it slip away due to indecision." The owner's smirk faltered, surprise flickering beneath the veneer of skepticism. Emma built on this moment, pulling from her uncertainties and transforming them into fierce conviction. "Instead of shrinking from my past, I've used it as a guide. I understand the stakes, not just as a professional, but as someone who carries the weight of this legacy on her shoulders." Each word felt like a revelation, an affirmation of her identity and purpose. The passing panic she had felt morphed into a burning resolve. In this clash of wills, she perceived an opportunity, not simply to answer the owner, but to anchor her place in this moment. She wouldn't just defend her plans, she would lay the foundation of her authority. Turning to the rest of the owners, she spread her arms, encompassing them with her vision. "Imagine a ranch that not only survives but flourishes, a place where innovation meets tradition, where the community thrives under our stewardship. I stand here not just to negotiate, but to lead us onward. My only question is, do you share my vision?" The atmosphere in the room subtly shifted. Emma sensed shifts in the owner's postures, some leaning in closer, their eyes now sparking with curiosity rather than judgment. Yet one voice, quieter but resolute, broke through the following silence. "It sounds ambitious, Emma, but what if the community isn't ready to fully back us? Leadership isn't just about having a vision, it's about execution, insurance against failure." A twinge of uncertainty pricked at her, a reminder of the inherent vulnerabilities of leadership. This was a pattern she recognized, the fear of rejection, the dread of unfolding true intentions equipped with the risk of failure. But instead of retreating into her insecurities, Emma leaned into the discomfort. "Every successful venture faces timidity," she navigated, her voice now laced with urgency. "But we possess a rare opportunity, articulating a plan that doesn't court favor, but builds genuine relationships. Engaging the community isn't a gamble, it's our strongest asset." With each point, she could see the owner's expressions evolving, their earlier doubt now mingled with interest and perhaps even admiration.
In asserting herself, she was daring to move past not only their skepticism, but also her own self-doubts. This was new territory, leading while still grappling with internal conflict. And while she possessed a growing sense of authority, lingering questions continued to unspool within her. Would they see her as a leader, or would they remain fixated on the magnitude of her ambition? The rhythm of the conversation quickened, tension morphing into an animated exchange about tactical partnerships. Emma found herself engaging them, not out of an urge to please, but from a place of self-assured mastery. Past mistakes no longer served as shackles, but rather as a springboard propelling her forward. The meeting continued, and every time they circled back to her, she carried forth with tenacity, weaving her own growth narrative into the fabric of their discussions. The deeper she ventured into her beliefs, the more she recognized the voice inside that held not only conviction, but untapped capabilities. But the conversation hit another inflection point when one owner asked pointedly, "What if we fail? How do you plan to handle the fallout?" As silence fell, she felt heat pulsing in her chest, the weight of fear and potential failure creating a knot in her stomach. This was the raw nerve of leadership, vulnerability wrapped in courage. The moment demanded more than a polished response. It required authenticity. Emma swallowed hard, feeling the anxious stirrings of her heart give way to a clarity she did not expect. "Failure is merely a chapter, not the book," she stated. Her voice carried the weight of newfound conviction.
If I am to lead, I will shoulder not just the successes, but the failures as well. Failure teaches resilience, and it's through our resilience that I will lead us back to success. The tense silence shifted once again, and the shift within her was palpable. She was shaping her narrative into one of unwavering strength, not just for herself, but for the ranch that stirred in the background of her aspirations. Would her openness about potential failure resonate with the owners, or would they question her readiness to handle the consequences? As their collective gaze still lingered on her, Emma recognized her next step wasn't merely about winning their support. It was about the persistent climb to self-acceptance, an edifice she was diligently building as she forged forward into an uncertain future. Emma felt the weight of their stares, each gaze a mix of scrutiny and curiosity. The room had shifted. Laughter and snide remarks had given way to a palpable tension, yet the subtle warmth of potential agreement flickered just beneath the surface. She drew a shaky breath, fighting the instinct to retreat into silence. Instead, she pressed onward. "Here's the truth," she asserted, her tone sharpening. "My approach might be ambitious, but ambition, when paired with strategy, can lead to profound change. I do not shy away from failure. I embrace it. I see potential in missteps. You want execution? I propose a structured plan that incorporates feedback loops with our community to iterate our offerings." The owner, who had posed the question about failure, nodded thoughtfully, the smirk now gone from his face, replaced by something resembling respect. He leaned forward slightly, engaging her directly. "You're suggesting we put the community front and center. How do we know they will respond positively?" Emma's mind raced. This required a delicate balance of honesty and hopeful persuasion. "We need to initiate two-way dialogues, focus groups, and town halls. We can ask real questions and listen. This isn't just about selling them our vision. It's about co-creating it with them. To ensure their voice is part of the decision-making process is vital. This is how we not only gain their trust, but also embed our ideals into the ranch's future." This concept, the very act of asking for input, was exhilarating. Emma felt empowered, the dialogue transforming not just her narrative, but her very essence as a leader. Someone behind her cleared their throat. Another owner had raised a hand, his brow furrowed. "But what if we invest time and resources and they don't engage? What happens then?" The familiar knot of uncertainty coiled tightly in her stomach, but she resisted the overwhelming urge to default to defensiveness. "If we invest and do not see engagement, we pivot. This won't be a failure, but rather an opportunity to reassess our approach. Flexibility and adaptability are cornerstones of effective leadership. What matters is that we're willing to learn from the engagement itself, whether it's a success or a setback. Every step we take will be invaluable towards forming deeper connections." Their conversations continued, a dynamic interplay shifting between fears and aspirations. Emma felt her confidence strengthen with each argument. She was no longer merely advocating for her vision. She was securing her place as an indispensable part of this legacy. Emerging from her cocoon of self-doubt and uncertainty, she could feel the pulse of the ranch's future reverberating around her. As discussions grew more intense, Emma noticed moments of camaraderie forming among the owners, ideas bouncing off one another, building a collective enthusiasm she had not anticipated. She had ignited a flame, and now they were fanning the fire together. But her internal conflict began resurfacing. Emma's childhood had been stitched together with both failures and successes, and with every passionate point made in the meeting, she felt the specter of her past looming. Could she truly lead them without awakening the ghosts of her earlier failures? Amid this fervor, another question loomed in her thoughts. What about her fellow owners? Could they embrace not just her vision, but her understanding of vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness?
As the meeting flowed closer toward its conclusion, Emma felt the urge to solidify the tenuous gains she had made. "Let's create a roadmap," she proposed, her voice steady. "A concrete plan that allows us to set benchmarks, measure our progress, and celebrate our achievements, no matter how small." The owners seemed to take a collective breath. Had she shifted the tide? Was this their moment of reconnection, not just with her plan, but with the ranch itself? But before she could bask in this newfound momentum, one owner lingered back after the meeting, his expression serious. "Emma," he said quietly, "you've tapped into something powerful today, but the true question remains, are you prepared to bear the weight of this responsibility?" The question hung heavy between them, echoing louder than the raucous conversations surrounding them. Emma felt the gravity of his words pressing down, each syllable challenging her resolve. Was she truly ready to step into the full embrace of her leadership? The path lay ahead, full of both peril and possibility, and as she glimpsed at the horizon, the burning desire to not just survive, but to thrive surged within her. The moment of truth approached, and with it, the inevitable confrontation with her past. Would she rise, refusing to be defined by those years, or would she falter against the weight of expectations, both self-imposed and external? In that dawning realization, a palpable urgency ignited within. Emma took a step forward. The time had come. She would discover exactly how deep her courage could run. Emma left the meeting room, her heart racing and her mind swirling. Though the conversation had felt empowering, the gravity of her colleague's question echoed in her thoughts. Responsibility, real responsibility, loomed like a shadow over her ambitions. As she navigated the narrow path back to her office, uncertainty intertwined with her newfound determination. Taking a seat at her desk, she opened her laptop, her fingers hovering above the keys. Her focus shifted from the collaborative fervor of the meeting to her internal struggles. Was she really equipped to lead? The depth of these emerging doubts made her question every choice she had ever made regarding her career. What if she faltered when the stakes were high? Her past failures were old scars, reminders that had shaped her but also haunted her. Emma forced herself to concentrate on the task at hand. The roadmap proposal needed fleshing out. It was more than just an idea now. It was a commitment to follow through. She began drafting sections that highlighted specific benchmarks and methods to measure engagement. Each word she typed felt heavy, grounding her fears momentarily as she focused on tangible steps forward. But in the quiet of her office, her thoughts wandered. The memories of her teenage failures crept in, disappointments, moments of embarrassment that had made her question her worth. How often had she felt the sting of inadequacy?
She had been resilient then, but resilience was not the same as feeling ready. Would her past trip her up again? Taking a deep breath, Emma acknowledged the recurring images of herself, lurking in various phases of struggle. The haunting feeling of letting herself down constricted her throat. Did it signify she was still that unsure girl chasing expectations, or had she truly evolved? She pushed herself to explore this contradiction deeply. Leadership, she understood, demanded authenticity. If she wanted to implement a culture of co-creation, she needed to model it herself. Maybe it wasn't about performing flawlessly, but about being willing to be seen, flaws included. Inspired by this notion, Emma decided to make a list of her perceived weaknesses with the intent of reframing them. Every fear needed to be analyzed, publicly and privately, as this wouldn't just be about the ranch, but also her own journey towards self-acceptance. She jotted down the first item, fear of appearing unqualified. Beneath it, she wrote how she had navigated through uncertain situations before, learning and growing at every turn. As she crafted each line, a sense of empowerment surged through her. This introspection became a turning point. She wasn't erasing her past, but rather including it in who she was becoming. Control over her narrative was shifting. Emma realized that leading with vulnerability would humanize her in the eyes of her colleagues and encourage them to share their own stories. A genuine connection could be forged through shared experiences, mistakes included. With newfound courage, she returned to the roadmap. This was no longer just a plan for the ranch. It was also a declaration of her commitment to lead transparently. She began outlining a section dedicated to encouraging her fellow owners to acknowledge their vulnerabilities openly. This could become a turning point for collective growth. Just as she felt satisfaction brewing within her, her phone buzzed. It was a message from one of her closest allies in the ranch venture, asking to meet about an urgent concern that could potentially derail their discussions. The urgency struck her like a thunderclap, pulling her from her contemplative state. She closed her laptop, steeling herself for the upcoming conversation. This moment could define her ability to pivot and respond effectively under pressure. As Emma stepped out to meet him, she couldn't shake the rising crescendo of anxiety. Little did she know that this encounter would thrust her into the kind of crisis she had been so afraid of facing, the one that might either cement her leadership or unravel everything she had fought to build. In the vibrant chaos of what lay ahead, Emma felt the weight pressing down again. Was she ready to confront this new challenge? Just as the question reverberated within her, she found herself wondering, would her past failures haunt her again, or had she finally forged the armor she needed to rise above?
Emma stood on the threshold of her future, a destination no longer blurred by uncertainty, but illuminated by resolve. The boardroom, once a symbol of latent fears, now felt transformed, a sanctum where her voice resonated with authority. She had walked in with trepidation, a woman still learning to embrace the leader within, but the fire ignited in her had burned too brightly to be extinguished. With each strategic point presented, each rebuttal gracefully countered, she had shed layers of self-doubt, emerging instead as the determined architect of the ranch's legacy. The roadmap she'd crafted had evolved beyond mere projections. It was an invitation to her colleagues to share ownership of the vision. Responsibility no longer loomed like a shadow. Instead, it filled her with a sense of purpose. Soon, the meeting transitioned from the tense debate she had anticipated to constructive dialogue. Her peers engaged with her ideas, their skepticism replaced by interested inquiries. They began bouncing ideas off one another, a torrent of creative solutions emerging like the dawn after a long night. It was a victory not just for the ranch, but for her resolve to maintain authenticity even under pressure, a hallmark of leadership she had only started to grasp. Days later, she found herself back at the ranch, her heart racing with pride. The community meeting she had championed was a testament to her growth. It was a celebration of not just the legacy she sought to preserve, but a testament to her evolution from indecision into resolute leadership. Her allies had bloomed in that space she'd created. They shared their fears, dreams, and hopes for a collective future. It was here, among her peers supporting her vision, that she felt inextricably connected to her heritage, no longer burdened, but invigorated. The ranch stood tall, not just as land, but as a narrative woven into the tapestry of their lives. Emma watched faces light up as she presented the finalized proposal, which included segments on community engagement and welfare, both for the land and for the larger populace. She had found her voice, and as she spoke, she realized the lineage of her ancestors flowed through her words, emboldening her. Together, we can utilize this ranch for education, rehabilitation, and sustainability, she affirmed, her cadence confident, solidifying her place as both a visionary and a guide. It resonated with depth, a promise she was willing to uphold. In that moment, Emma felt the yearning doubts evaporate as applause erupted from her peers, their genuine respect for her blossoming leadership now palpable. She had transformed uncertainty into confidence, resistance into support, and the fear of legacy into a robust foundation of community pride. That evening, as Emma returned home, the locket felt lighter in her pocket, a reminder of the struggles she had faced and the victories she had seized.
The profound realization washed over her. She had not only saved the ranch, she had salvaged her dreams, merging them with a legacy that now felt like an extension of herself. Her once estranged Uncle Graham approached her, an uncharacteristically warm smile breaking the usual reticence. "Emma, you were incredible today," he expressed, pride evident in his voice. "I've seen the change in you, your courage, your vision. You've truly stepped into your power." "Thank you," she replied, her voice steady and true. "But this isn't just about me. This is our legacy. We're in this together." Acceptance flowed through her, not just of herself, but of those around her. She had become the leader she had previously doubted she could be, not by seeking validation, but by recognizing the importance of collaboration and community. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting gold and crimson across the skies, Emma looked out toward the ranch. It was not merely land. It pulsed with life, rooted in history, but breathing with future possibilities. The culmination of her journey was not just in saving her heritage, but in discovering her own potential. She had proven that resilience could carve paths of leadership, illuminating the way for others. Pride blossomed in her chest, and she did not shy away from acknowledging it. She had transformed from a hesitant youth into a bastion of conviction. She closed her eyes, envisioning the sanctuary of animals, the educational workshops, and the thriving community coming together. Elements that once felt disparate and now coalesced into a cohesive vision. Emma had achieved something monumental, not just a victory in saving the ranch, but a reclamation of her identity. She was finally home, not only to the land she cherished, but to herself. You need to subscribe now to catch the next incredible tales of personal transformation. Leave a like now to boost the algorithm and let others embark on these journeys. Comment below with your thoughts, feelings, and theories about this conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring resolution. Don't wait even one more second to spread the message of personal overcoming.